Okay, welcome back. Today we have Brian Baumgartner. You might know him as Kevin Malone from The Office. Kind of a cult following. I recently watched it all, maybe like a year ago, but I know a lot of people love it. It's funny as hell. He's got a new book out that we'll talk about, and maybe you can shed some light on filming, some funny stuff that happened while they were filming. I think 7-8 seasons. They were on air for a long time. And then he recently wrote a book, oral history of the entire show. So should be funny. Going to have to ask him about the chili, how that all went down. 1 take, 2 takes. What was the deal? And we'll see what else we can get out of him about The Office and whatever else he's got going on. So let's get Brian on, a.k.a. Kevin, and hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, all those things. Let me know how we're doing. Okay, welcome back. We've got Brian Baumgartner. Probably, I mean, do people just yell Kevin at you constantly?
Yes.
Still get that?
Nonstop. All the time, yeah. Especially I'm here in New York City right now, so walking down the street, yeah, that's a lot. That or something about chili.
So don't ask the chili question. Is what I'm gathering. What are you?
I know it's coming.
Oh, it's coming. What are you up to? What are you doing?
Well, I just wrote a book. I just and you've got it right there. Perfect.
Q.
Very visual. QJ.
The ultimate oral history of The Office, as told by the actors, writers, producers, and crew.
Yep.
This started as a podcast, right? Is that correct? Kind of.
That's right. Kind of. Basically, I went back. I was trying to figure out why the show now is bigger than it ever was, even when it was on the air. And we were going to do 8 hours. We were going to do like a Ken Burns documentary style, tell the story. And I sat down with Rainn Wilson, who played Dwight, the first interview, and we do 2.5 hours. And then I talked to Carell, and we do 3.5 hours. And then I start talking to writers and producers, and we end up with over 100 hours of recorded material. And I was like, well, I think this is bigger than just 8 hours. So we took it, made it into a book, and we went back to the vault at NBC and have 100 or more pictures from behind the scenes that have never been seen before.
That's amazing. Where? I mean, we'll get into Office and everything else. Where are you from originally?
Atlanta, Georgia.
So you grew up in Atlanta. Did you always? I mean, were you the kid that you always wanted to act? Like, was that always kind of your passion?
No, I wanted to be a professional baseball player.
Really?
That is for real.
Braves fan?
So I mean, if we're gonna go deep, I was a Braves fan.
Okay.
Yeah, I had. I thought I was going to be a professional baseball player. That's what I wanted to be.
Okay.
And my right leg, my knee was straight. My foot was about 45 degrees out to the right.
Gotcha.
Right.
So
it was totally elective on my part. I could have lived that way forever. And I went in and I said, we want to fix this. So they went in, both bones, broke both bones, put it back in place, put a plate in. And then the idea was they'll go back in, take the plate out, and my foot will be straight and I'll be able to run faster, harder, stronger, whatever.
How old were you?
And teenager. Okay. So early teens. And what happened was, apparently I'm in some textbook or something. I don't know, but there was a chemical mismixture in the splint, right? What? So imagine my leg is propped up. It's not a foot cast. It ends down. And I kept saying, I'm having pain. And they're like, oh, yeah, give him some more drugs and he'll be fine. And there was several days I'm still in the hospital. I'm having pain. And the doctor goes, he shouldn't be having pain. They cut the thing off and it had burned through to my Achilles tendon right at the back.
What?
And I ended up being I can't believe you didn't know this story before. I ended up in a walker. A wheelchair, then a walker, and had to completely learn how to re-walk again, crutches, a cane. It was about a year rehab, skin graft stuff, and the whole deal. I mean, it was, it was like the size of two, 3 golf balls side by side, just all the way done. And yeah, so that my professional sports career was cut short at an early age.
Oh my gosh.
But I was active. And so it was like, I tried to find some other outlet, and someone suggested theater, and I started doing theater, and just kind of thought it was a hobby. Just that was what I was doing. And then got more and more into it. And by right before senior year of college, or senior year of high school, I was like, I think I can do this. And then I ended up going to college for theater.
Really?
Yeah.
Where at?
SMU. Hail to the red and the blue. The Mustangs of SMU.
The Mustangs to Texas. So then, like, you get out of school. I mean, did you land on your feet pretty quickly, or did you go down the whole job?
The second.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I started doing theater, traveling around the country.
Yeah.
I was in Minneapolis, Minnesota for a while. They have a big theater community there. Chicago, Dallas, I said, New York, West Coast, and just kind of traveling around, and eventually decided I was going to move to Los Angeles. And then once I moved, there was a lot of early struggle, but once I moved, I ended up meeting the producers and so forth on The Office 3-4 months after I arrived in town.
No kidding. That quickly.
Yeah.
I guess that says the rest of the story then. I mean, that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, look, I kind of a funny story. My parents always incredibly supportive. Whatever you want to do, son, you do it. You're great. You can do anything. And so I was doing the very first show I did out of college was, and I was from the South, right? In Texas. I move up to Minneapolis, Minnesota, join this group. I'm doing a show. My parents fly up to see it, of course. It's colder than balls in February. And my parents, so it starts with my parents get into a cab and give the cab driver the address of where this very small theater was that I was going to perform in. And the cab driver says to them, "You don't want to go there." And they were like, "No, I think we do."
Yeah, definitely do.
No. So it's like 15 whatever degrees below zero. We contemplated just not doing the show that night. Anyway, my parents were inclusive of 15 people who were watching the show, and the show ends, and they were totally supportive, and for years after, but many years after, they laughed and said, on that cab ride back to our hotel, we were like, what in the hell is he doing? What is he in this frozen tundra here? Nobody's ever going to see him perform. There's a dozen other people and us in this space. What is happening? But they, to their credit, never dissuaded me, never, tried to talk me out of it or anything. So they were incredibly supportive.
We'll just let him crash and burn on his own.
Yeah, exactly.
I've done some comics, and they've told stories of, being in New York and literally doing a show with one person in the crowd. And they're like, it's just kind of how it goes. If you work out a lot like I do, then you're probably familiar with creatine, but don't settle for the giant tubs of junk they sell you everywhere. You need creatine that actually works in small doses, and that's Concrete. Concrete is the only microdose creatine that is able to provide all the strength and endurance benefits of creatine without any of the negative side effects like bloating or cramps. Science has long known that creatine is needed to help fuel every cell in the body. That includes the immune system to fight serious disease, the muscles to increase greater strength, and even the brain to increase and improve memory, mental processing, and focus. Concrete is the gift of better health, focus, fitness, and immunity this holiday season. It's a perfect stocking stuffer available at Walmart and Walmart.com. Enter to win a free membership to Planet Fitness for an entire year plus a $500 gift card. Take better control of your health, body, and mind. Get Concrete into your life today. Register at concrete.com/podcasts. That's CON-CRET.com concrete.com/podcast. Available now at Walmart and Walmart.com. Concrete is truly changing the fitness and health game. Go to concrete.com/podcast. So you get to LA, you meet, guys from the office. I mean, did you know? I mean, you guys did the pilot season. Did you think the show would make it, or was it just like, I'm not sure how this thing's gonna go?
It was, and that's part of the reason also of telling, of writing the book is it was absolute. I mean, the fact that now there's 207 episodes. I mean, it was absolutely going to be canceled after 6. I mean, it was dead.
Really?
And then we did 6 more the second season, and they were going to cancel it again. Like it was not doing good in the ratings. People didn't get it. We loved it. I mean, those of us who were working on it felt like it was really good. But, back then it was so different than anything else that was on television. And it just gradually took time, and quite frankly, took younger people to start watching the show.
Finding
the show?
Did you watch the British version?
I loved it.
Yeah. I thought it was great too.
I loved it. Yeah, loved it, and and that's why actually I wanted to be a part of the show. And people, have asked me over time, like, well, did you, everybody else was saying it wouldn't work. Did you not think that? And I feel like at the time I was just like, well, I just thought it was really good. And so why not? I was probably too dumb to realize that it was probably something that was going to get canceled. It was really a struggle early on, first season into the second season. And we sort of tell that journey of the second season in the book. Like everything had to go right that made the show keep coming. And probably the primary thing was there was a little movie. I don't know if you ever heard of it, called A 40-Year-Old Virgin that came out. And Steve Carell became the biggest comedy star on the planet. And I think that's probably what kept us on the air early on.
I mean, his character changes a lot. I mean, not a lot, but you can see it evolve from season 1, 2 to 3. I mean, there's definitely an evolution there of him. It looks like it comes out a little bit more and does his thing.
Well, actually, that's really astute that you brought that up, because that was, it was struggling in the ratings, and we wanted to keep going, and they wanted to find a way to kind of soften Michael Scott. And so one of the things that Greg did was he, our creator, studied A 40-Year-Old Virgin, because he was like, wait a second, like he's really, really likable in this movie. Like he has this just innate likability factor. Why is that? Like, what is that? And so what they sort of did through the second season was, this was their kind of like goal, the writers. Let's do exactly the same show that we did in the first season. Like everything is the same. He says terrible things. He does terrible things. The office responds to him in that way. But just find a moment in every episode or every few episodes where there's just you see a little bit of hope. So like there's, he is horrible, terrible on this Halloween episode. But then at the very end of the episode, you see him at home giving out candy to kids. Yeah. And it's just like, it's like a guy, and that's what he wants. And
they found that little wholesome moment that makes him relatable and makes him, like you said, softens his character, and you'd be like, oh, okay, like I get that now.
Yeah.
And I think that the show in general just did that. I mean, I watched the show early on, and then I came back to it and watched, from season 1 all the way through, watched the whole thing. And it, like you said, it's one of the, I don't understand, like now, like you said, it's more popular now. It's got such a cult following. Our nanny that watches our kids, that have watched them for last like 5-6 years, and like my kids are they're all in school now. And so she does kind of more just house manager stuff for me. Like she literally like is obsessed. Like her and her husband fall asleep to this show she literally wrote up like 2 pages of questions. She's like, you have to ask this. And I'm like, it's literally it's amazing kind of how this cult following around it, like now, rather than, what it was 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a couple things that we kind of explore and talk about in the book. I mean, one being that people constantly say, well, a couple things. One, like we put it on at night before we go to sleep, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because I'm always like, well, you're going to sleep, right?
Yeah.
But no, like people talk about it. And then what they talk about is the show brings them comfort, that it has brought them through a hard time or makes them feel better. And it's a weird kind of dichotomy between what you think of the show, right? You think about it being kind of subversive, mean. Some of the characters are mean to other. Michael Scott says inappropriate things you're not supposed to say. But I think at the end of the day, there's like an inherent kindness and love and like family that exists within the people that make the people watching it feel good and a part of it.
Oh, I totally get that. I think the more time you spend, if you watch one episode, you're like, I mean, you probably get that. Like, you know, they're kind of mean to each other. But like, if you spend time and go through this series, like it's a family. They take care of each other. There's this good, warm feeling that you get watching it. And like, I mean, if you watch the finale, like everyone genuinely looked like sad, like so sad. Like it was heartbreaking to watch it. Did you guys feel that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, you know, I've said this before, and this sounds weird, but I think for me, the most emotional was when Steve Carell left.
Yeah, that was rough.
And here I think is why, was kind of because it was like we were losing an appendage, right? Like we were losing. Whereas at the end, we all sort of collectively made the decision that you know, we weren't canceled. Like we wanted to tell this story. We wanted specifically this documentary to air. And Greg felt like when the documentary airs, the show is over because, well, I mean, he references reality TV, right? People behave differently once they know that they have been watched or are being watched on TV. That real people are watching them changes the way you have to behave, right? Yeah. So, like Kevin, for example, like if he watches the show and sees how he's portrayed in this documentary, he's got to change something, right? Or maybe Kevin leans into it, right? But other characters, sure, you know, it just changes the behavior. So that is that's why the show ended. So it was incredibly emotional. But when Steve left, we knew he was going to go. He was a huge star. He had done 7 years. He fulfilled his like he had done everything. It was like, guys, I think my story is done. We got it, but that was like really hard.
Yeah, that was tough. I mean, you could see. I mean, you could see like it wasn't acting. Like it was real. That was real. Do you think there has to be more time? Like, you know, Friends is trying to do the comeback. Do you think there needs to be more time for you guys to have before you can kind of do that type of scenario?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I mean, obviously we get asked about it all the time.
I'm sure.
And that the NBC, I mean, I think NBC would do it yesterday if there was something to shoot. You know, again, going back to Greg Daniels, the creator, like he, as we all are, was tremendously proud of the show that was there. And so I think what is more than time, he wants to find the exact right excuse to bring everybody back together. And I think if he ever decides that or comes up with that, I suspect something will happen and most, if not all, will be back on board.
Oh, I'm sure it's going to be huge when it happens. It's just a matter of time, I would imagine. Let's get through the chili thing. I mean, you said that's one of the top two. It's either Kevin or the chili. Was that one take or like what happened there?
Take.
That's probably all you could do.
That's probably all you can do. But I mean, you know, Jay, they call me Mr. One Take. So yes, that's all I ever need. I mean that. So essentially, as the story goes, the carpet was not going to be cleanable, right?
I'm sure.
So
ruined.
3 gigantic pieces of carpet that they put out. And they came to me before and they were like, look, we have 3 pieces of carpet, so we can't do it any more than 3 times. That's it. Like, that's all you got. But I think what really they didn't plan on was how difficult it was going to be to clean me. Like, this was a whole, because it was like orangey, brown, stainy, like fingers. And, you know, really, we rehearsed it a lot. And, you know, essentially it was about making sure that the spill looked realistic. I mean, essentially, and that it happened in the right place, that was lit in the right way, that the cameras could get it in the right way and do that. But I remember they didn't do this all the time, but they had the capability for when we would film something semi-complicated and they needed to check the tape, that they had a way that they could rewind and we could watch. And I remember, like, as wardrobe people are kind of like peeling my jacket off and chili is like dripping off of me, I'm standing at the monitor going, please say we got it. Please say we got it. Please don't have screwed this up. And thankfully that was it.
I mean, iconic scene, obviously. Are you RSVPing yes this holiday? Express has you covered with outfits for every single invite. Express is that perfect mix of confidence-boosting styles and comfort for every occasion this holiday season. Check out their suits available in plaid, flannel, luxe comfort fabrics, and more. Perfect for everything from swanky holiday parties to festive weddings. Or maybe you need a winter jacket. Express has a killer line of flannel jackets, sharp blazers, handsome bombers, and more. And those flannel jackets are so warm and the perfect layer for all my holiday fits. And of course, you can match any style with jeans, dress pants, or chinos. The Express Flex X jeans are the most flexible denim yet, with a comfort stretch waist. So what are you waiting for? RSVP yes this holiday. Unwrap festive new styles, holiday deals, and more at express.com or in stores. All right, a 3-part question here. How much improv was there? Who did the most improv? And how much of it made the final cuts?
Okay. This is going to be 3 fairly unsatisfying answers, but I'll answer it anyway.
Okay.
So that it's
no improv, never made it. No one ever did it.
No, not that. No, it's just hard to answer. So
sure.
The one thing is that NBC, monolith, huge corporation, lawyers. Yeah. They call them standards and practices. They decide what you can and can't say.
Sure.
By the way, you'll like this. Here's a trivia thing you'll never heard before. Kevin Malone, was the first person on network television ever to do this and successfully have it air on television.
What is it? That's you're the first one to ever do that?
To actually penetrate.
Really? And for it to make it. That, I tell you what,
yes.
It's weird as hell. I was just down in the Dominican Republic, and I was coming back, and we were going through customs, and I looked down, and my boarding pass says SSSS, and it's highlighted pink. And I'm like, this can't be good. So we're going through customs, and I show them the thing, and they're like, go over there, and I'm like, shit, here we go. So I go over there, and we brought some podcast stuff, some mic, and a little camera and stuff, and the girl's just looking me up and down. She doesn't speak English. She's going through my stuff, and she's like, she pulled out a mic. She's like, what is this? I'm like, podcast. And she goes, singer? And I'm like, no, podcast. And she's like, singer. I'm like, yes, I'm a singer. And this guy comes over. This other guy comes over. He goes, singer, huh? And I'm like, yep. He goes,
singer.
He goes, you know what singer means here? And I go, no. And he goes, just like that. He go, and the guy goes, me, a lot of singer. And they all start busting out laughing and walking off. They put all my stuff back. And I'm like, okay, singer, here we go.
That is so amazing.
Yeah, it was.
I love that.
It went from really dicey to, all right, I just learned a new word in the DR, so it was fun.
You're good. So anyway, so large corporation, So everything had to be approved. Every word that we said had to be approved, and there had to be a script, and the script that was there had to be shot. And then we were always allowed to play. So not only every episode, like every scene was allowed to be messing around. And then it's like, oh, if that was funnier than what was written, let's go back and make sure that it's okay. As long as we have the original, we can't get in trouble. And so it really, I'll go slightly out of order. It really depended on the episode, how much got in and didn't. So I'll share. Luckily, I found this out through the book. I think the longest improv sequence that was in, and it ended up them having to cut other parts of the episode. I don't know if you remember, but basically it's a Halloween episode, and Dwight is dressed as a Sith Lord, and Michael has a second head on his shoulder. And Mike and Steve and Rain start improvising as though the other head is talking to Michael about who he should fire. And then Rain starts talking to the head, telling him not to talk to Michael. And there's this whole scene that happens that goes on and on. It went on so like none of that was written basically. And there was a huge long section. The other just like probably the most famous now that people are most shocked was totally improvised was very famous moment, unlike that, but the gay witch hunt when Oscar, it is discovered that Oscar is gay and Michael is attempting to show everyone who works in the office that being gay is okay. And he shows that finally by kissing Oscar. That kiss was improvised. So
really?
That was not scripted.
So Oscar's reaction is legit.
Is legit, is genuine, was surprised.
Wow.
And so that was done. I would say in general, the person who improvised the most, like by volume, would be, most episodes we had a scene in the conference room that Steve for 7 years dominated, and he would do the most improvising in those long speeches probably of anything else.
Who broke the most?
Mindy Kaling, hands down.
Really? Just couldn't keep a straight face?
Yeah, she was known as a laugher.
Well, it has to be hard because you guys are all so damn funny. And it was well written.
Yes. Incredibly well written. I mean, that's the thing. Oftentimes, this is like so self-indulgent, like, gosh, aren't I funny? But those, we call them the talking heads, right? Like the direct address camera when you were by yourself. And there were oftentimes that though you're the only person in the room who's acting and yet you can't keep it together. But that was totally because of the writing. There was a very like obscure moment in one of the things where Kevin is talking about Angela's cats, and they have Kevin say, "You can't eat cats." Can't eat cats, Kevin. Like that he has to convince himself that they're so cute, but you can't eat them. And remember, you can't eat them no matter how cute they are. And just the idea of that made me laugh so hard. And the director was laughing. And finally it was like, I kicked everybody out of the room, I think, except for the camera guy. And I was like, all right, just look down at the floor. Don't look me in the eye. Let me just say this and we'll get through it and get out of here.
I mean, of all the improv and takes and funny stuff, I mean, I'm sure some of these days kind of dragged on, but it was probably fun.
It was really fun. I mean, the difference is, I know you know how it works, but the most shows, right, you have a star, and then you have other supporting characters, right? So, stupid example, but like you have the star has a scene with this actor, and then that actor, and then this actor, and they're trying to shoot in one location. So the actor comes in, they do, the other actor comes in, does the thing, and they go home. But the way our show was shot, and we were all together all the time, and the camera was panning around, and that whole group dynamic was so essential to, 99% of what we shot. we were all there
Yeah.
all the time. Nobody was there any
less.
any longer than anybody, any less than anybody else. So that was something really unique.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many like group shots of 3 to 5 to 6 people in one shot that it was different for TV at that point.
Yeah, 100%.
But
I mean, probably this is just occurring to me. I don't think I've ever said this before, but probably if someone were to say who was the actor who was on set the most,
mm-hmm.
it is probably the character of Stanley played by Leslie David Baker. And you go, well, why him? Well, because a majority of those talking heads were shot with the window out, and he is always sitting in the background.
Oh, he's sitting there. He just sat there.
That.
Not a bad gig.
There.
He just sat there.
Yeah.
It was, and they did a really good job of finding different characters, and you guys all played off each other so well. I mean, it's looking at it now, it's a piece of work.
Yeah, and I think too in terms of the book and why it was written and discoveries that we made. I mean, I think that as difficult as that was, like as how much we were there. I mean, not to bring it into your world, but it really becomes like a team. Like,
for sure.
We are all there all the time. And I think you get that through the screen. I mean, I think you pick that up between the relationships between the characters and the actors and all the work that's happening, that if it wasn't shot that way, if it was something different, I don't think you create the dynamic that happened on the show.
No, not at all. And I think that's you definitely get that when you watch it. Was it hard for whenever guest stars came in and they kind of broke that dynamic up a little bit, or would they just kind of fall right in there?
No, one of the craziest things that I heard, this was from our editor, one of our chief editors talked about when Kathy Bates came in, right? So Kathy Bates, starts doing kind of a recurring job on the show. And to me, it's like, this is Kathy. This is Misery. This is Oscar winner Kathy Bates, who's here now. And Claire would talk about that when she would get in the edit and would see the shoots, that it was very clear that she was nervous.
Oh, really?
So I talked to a few people about that, or coming in. Ellie Kemper, who played Erin, who came in, and essentially what she said was, you guys, we'd all been watching you at that point, like 5-6 years.
Yeah. And
like acknowledging that ensemble. Now, this wasn't her, but somebody else said it's like you were like walking into Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
It was like, I've seen every inch of this space on my television for all of these years, and now I'm with you. So, I felt like we were all tried to be as like warm and generous and fun and as we could, but there was definitely some feeling on the other side. I mean, I've said this also. I think this is really, really true that, again, our boss, Greg Daniels, he would mix up the energy of the ensemble. He was incredibly loyal and loved everybody. So there probably weren't as many firings as should have happened of employees. I mean, like who worked at Dunder. Does Kevin really have stayed around for 10 years? But thankfully, Greg liked me. But it was like, we're now in year 3. Let's bring in an Andy Bernard character. Yeah. I want Pam's role to evolve and for her to have more aspirations. Let's bring in an Ellie Kemper that has this crazy positive energy that nobody else here at Dunder Mifflin has. And I felt like that just kept giving the actors who were still there. Of course, there was the old reliable joke that I could throw at Angela or at Oscar or at Dwight, but then here's now this little hummingbird of like Erin, the receptionist, like with this totally new energy. Oh, isn't that interesting? Well, let's look at, Kevin, like level stasis, and then this like hummingbird, like maybe that could be funny in some way, So I thought they did a great job of that.
Yeah, and they did a great job of, like, you had your yeah, like you said, you had your things, but like everyone kind of had their own vertical, and they did a good job of, making sure that each person had a little part in this whole team. And it was, I mean, it's fascinating to watch. And like you said, whenever guests come in, like I would be, if I was one of those people, I mean, I'm sure they were thinking like, let's just not mess this up. These guys got a great thing going. They're clicking on all cylinders. Like the only thing that you could do would mess it up as a guest star, I would assume.
Right. No, 100%. And it's funny that you said that. And of course I think of, our old buddy, Mr. Rogers, who, we became friends and, at one point I went to Green Bay and he walked me out of the tunnel at Lambeau Field where I was, this is incredible. Like this for me is incredible. And another time he was in LA and I walked him onto the set of Dunder Mifflin.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, this is really cool. Like so yeah, I mean it's I guess it depends on your perspective.
Yeah, sure. Did you keep anything from set?
Yes. I kept I don't have I'm traveling, I don't have them here on my desk because it's not my desk. I have this actually just occurred to me how funny this is. Actually, I told somebody else this, and I was at my desk and showing it. So I had a nameplate that said Kevin Malone. Okay, makes sense. Dwight kind of had a nameplate. Here's the crazy thing: I had a divider in between. I just thought about this. I had a divider in between Angela and I'm back in the corner, and the nameplate faced me, which meant I thought at some point in time, Kevin was like, oh, cool, there's a nameplate. Let me put it there so I can see it, which literally defeats the purpose of a nameplate.
A nameplate, yes.
And I never really put that together, except when I started thinking about that. I took it, I think, because it just had my name on it or whatever. I took that. The very first joke I had in the show, Michael is introducing the documentary crew, and he talks about Kevin, and he says basically like he's not a great accountant, but he's a great entertainer. And it cuts to a shot of me with this giant pencil. It was this red giant pencil, and I'm pretending to write with it and looking over at Oscar, like making him laugh. Totally stupid. Never referenced again, but that sits on my desk. And then the big one for me was I have the jar of M&Ms.
Oh.
Yes. It's out there.
Of course. Yeah. Of course.
I have that.
So are you a Green Bay fan? Or just an Aaron fan? From Atlanta. Are you a Braves fan?
I'm from Atlanta.
Are you a Braves fan?
I became a Green Bay fan.
How?
Because of Aaron. Yeah.
You're like my son.
We start hanging out a lot.
You're like my son. He's just a bandwagon fan. Like whoever's winning, he's like, I'll be that guy.
No, for me, I couldn't. We became close.
Yeah.
And for me, it just became like, so I'm gonna root for like my hometown team. I live, by the way, 7,000 miles from Atlanta.
Sure. I'm
going to root for my hometown team that I'm never going to get to see to play, or I'm going to go and hang out and root for him. I tell you what, though, I know you know this. I mean, you may not admit it, but I mean, Green Bay is a really special place.
Oh, it's incredibly special. Oh, walking in that field and the whole thing, like it's majestic. Like there's this aura about it.
If you don't have a team that makes you have to inherently root against them, so like Bears, Vikings, basically. I don't know. Do the Lions count? I'm not sure if they do or not.
They don't.
If you have, you said it. I didn't. Detroit. I didn't say it. If you're that's fine. But anybody else, like they're not a team that you can hate, which is kind of weird. Like like people who have had sort of sustained success, teams that have had sort of sustained success. Like a lot of people hate the Cowboys. A lot of people hate Patriots or the Yankees or the Lakers or the Celtics. Green Bay, maybe not as as much of a dynasty recently as those years, but still always good.
Yep.
If you go there, it's hard to hate it. It
Oh,
really,
it is.
I mean, it's almost impossible.
It is.
Yeah.
And the people there are great. The fans are great. They're all out there tailgating. Like they do football the right way.
Yes.
From the start to the finish. And I have a lot of respect for him. I have a ton of respect for Aaron. Sucks kind of what he's going through now, but he'll get on the backside of that soon.
Yeah. I for people who don't know this, I don't know how much you would know this either, but when I first went, and it was like tailgating, right? And so and there is this that exists, by the way, but I'm thinking, right, like beers, brats, the little portable, grills out of the parking lot. That's what I think of. And I show up with, someone who I'd met there, and we drive up to a house. Yeah. And I'm like, we're tailgating? Yeah. And I get out, get out of the car. They park in this driveway. Get out of the car, and it's a garage, and there's like the plastic across the garage instead of the door to keep some heat. It was winter. And you open the plastic, and you walk inside, and there is food everywhere, any imaginable alcohol that you could want. They've taken the little bathroom that's inside the house, and there's just a urinal in there, right? Yep. So they've got it set up. And the only thing there is there's one very simple small bucket on the bar, which is basically like, hey, if you can throw in a few bucks, great. Yeah. And I mean, it's like, it is, and then you leave this house like tailgating garage party, and you walk 150 yards and you walk into the stadium. It's so the coolest thing.
Oh, it is. I remember the first time we played there, and we're driving. I mean, we're just in the middle of a neighborhood, and it's like, where are we going here? Like this isn't normal. There's just houses, people outside, people inside, house, and then it's like there's this huge Coliseum here. It's like, oh, okay. I guess we're doing it here.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's fun. I just saw that I think they're selling. I guess they're selling like a portion of the team. It's really unprecedented. Yeah. Cool. They'll sell autographs. Are you RSVPing yes this holiday? Express has you covered with outfits for every single invite. Express is that perfect mix of confidence-boosting styles and comfort for every occasion this holiday season. Check out their suits available in plaid, flannel, luxe comfort fabrics, and more. Perfect for everything from swanky holiday parties to festive weddings. Or maybe you need a winter jacket. Express has a killer line of flannel jackets, sharp blazers, handsome bombers, and more. And those flannel jackets are so warm and the perfect layer for all my holiday fits. And of course, you can match any style with jeans, dress pants, or chinos. The Express Flex X jeans are the most flexible denim yet, with a comfort stretch waist. So what are you waiting for? RSVP yes this holiday. Unwrap festive new styles, holiday deals, and more at express.com or in stores. Well, I appreciate it. Where can people find the book?
People can find the book. I've always wanted to say this, so I'm going to say it. It's available wherever you buy books.
Anywhere you buy books.
And if you don't, then you can go onto Amazon or, Barnes & Noble or whatever, and it's there. But I'm tremendously proud of it.
It should be.
I can say this because I had nothing to do with this. The design of it is so great, and the photos are amazing. So, yeah, I'm excited.
You should be. I'm sure it's I'm sure it's flying off the shelves, and I'm sure it's going to sell even more. So, congratulations. It's amazing. I'm going to actually start it tonight, get into it.
Awesome.
Well, I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You have a good day.
All right. Cheers. Thanks, Jay.
See you, bud. Okay, that's a wrap. I want to thank Brian for coming on. He was funny as hell, as expected. Sometimes you don't know if they're playing a character, if they're going to be funny in real life. I had a feeling he would be, and he definitely lived up to the character and told some funny stories, and we got a little insight in it. So that was a good one. Hope you like it. Let me know what we're doing well and what we need to improve, and we will see you next week. Thanks.